The new dawn drifted silently through the velvet dark of deep space, its silver hull reflecting the faint glow of ancient stars. Inside, the bridge pulsed with the soft hum of instruments, the heartbeat of a vessel built for exploration, not war. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, hands clasped behind her back, eyes locked on the vast dying light of the orange star ahead. It was a bloated giant, burning itself out in slow agony, its gravity pulling strange signals from the surrounding system. She was a veteran of deep space. Decades of navigating unknown sectors, deciphering alien ruins, and surviving close encounters had etched quiet authority into her voice. But something about this system felt different. Not dangerous, but heavy, like history itself was watching. "Captain," said Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor console, "I'm picking up an anomaly signal emission from the third planet in this system. Multiple bands, artificial, definitely not natural background noise." Elena turned, crossing the bridge in 2 purposeful strides. "Show me." The display came alive with cascading data streams. The signal was old but repeating, structured, layered in 17 distinct languages. Beneath it all, a shared rhythm, like a heartbeat, unified every version. Dr. Marcus Chun looked up from his station, eyes wide with fascination. "That's not just language, that's biological resonance. They're encoding emotion in frequency. Organic tech, no doubt about it." Elena listened, the faint transmission rising through the speakers. At first it was incomprehensible, like wind passing through crystal. But then the translation matrix found stability. "To any who may hear this message," the voice began, soft and musical, each word echoing with depth, "we are the Ktherra of Solace Prime. Our sun wanes, our skies darken, and we are afraid. We have reached across the stars in search of voices. For cycles uncounted, we have sent our plea to those who walk the heavens. We ask not for pity, only safe passage, a new place to grow, to share, to live. Please, if there is anyone at all, hear us." The bridge went still. No one spoke, not even Chun, whose breath had caught in his throat. The message continued, looping calmly, mournfully. Elena's jaw tightened. She had heard distress calls before. This wasn't that. This was the sound of a civilization preparing to die with dignity. "Lieutenant," she said at last, her voice steady, "scan the Galactic communications registry. See if anyone's answered this." Minutes passed. Kim's face paled as she read the data. "Captain ... The signal's been broadcasting for 21 years, logged and archived by every major power. Not a single recorded response, not one." Chun's voice broke the silence. "Because they don't have weapons, or resources, or trade routes. Just life, just culture, just peace," Elena murmured. She stared out the viewport, watching the distant blue-green shimmer of the third planet. Somewhere down there, the Ktherra were still hoping, still waiting. Their light was fading and no one had come. Elena's hand moved to the console. "Initiate first contact protocol. Plot descent trajectory. We're going in." "Captain," Kim said, uncertain, "solar instability in this system is high." "If the star flares, we've survived worse," Elena said. "And we're not leaving them unanswered." The new dawn shifted course, engines lighting up with quiet grace. Below, Solace Prime turned slowly on its axis, the last sanctuary of a forgotten race reaching toward the stars. And now, at last, someone was reaching back. The descent into Solace Prime's atmosphere was like slipping into a dream layered with unease. The shuttle's windows shimmered with green-tinted auroras as light from the dying sun refracted through the planet's upper atmosphere. But even that beauty felt fragile, like a painting already starting to crack. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat forward in her seat, helmet cradled in her lap, eyes fixed on the sprawling surface below. Thick emerald forests stretched across the continents like living oceans. Veins of light glowed between them, cities, but not of metal or stone. They pulsed, they breathed. Grown, not built. Beside her, Dr. Marcus Chen was practically vibrating with excitement. "Captain, those crystalline structures, look at the way they refract solar energy. They're alive. It's symbiotic architecture, far beyond anything we've documented. This planet is ... It's not a machine world. It's a garden with a soul." Elena glanced at him, then at the still figure of Lieutenant Sarah Kim gripping her harness beside them. Sarah's eyes were locked on her display, tracking solar patterns in the upper atmosphere. "Radiation levels are unstable. If the star throws another flare while we're grounded," Elena answered with quiet certainty, "we won't be here long. Just enough to meet the Ktherra. Understand what we're fighting for." The shuttle broke through the final layer of atmosphere and coasted toward a clearing surrounded by what could only be described as a living city. The buildings were cathedral-like tall, elegant, and impossibly intricate. Yet not a single seam or joint marred their surface. Vines spiraled up glowing walls. Roofs stretched upward like petals toward the light. Some structures hummed quietly, producing harmonic tones that resonated deep in the chest, and then they appeared. The Ktherra emerged from the edges of the clearing with a grace that made time seem to slow. Towering 8 feet tall, their forms resembled humanoid trees, bark-like skin in hues of deep moss and polished amber, glowing veins of bioluminescence beneath the surface. Their limbs moved like wind through grass. Their eyes, massive and silver, shimmered with a wisdom that felt impossibly old. The one who stepped forward was unlike the rest, older, grander, her bark streaked with silver-gray patterns that curled like tree rings. She wore a robe woven from vines that shifted with her breath. "I am Ktherra," she said in a voice that sounded like wind through leaves and ancient song. "Elder of the Grove Council, you came." Captain Elena rose slowly, unstrapped her helmet, and stepped onto the soft ground. "I'm Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth vessel New Dawn. We received your message. We came because no one else did." Thesa's glowing eyes softened. "Hope is a fragile flame. We kept it alive through centuries of silence. But even hope was fading. You have rekindled it." They walked together through the city. The walls reacted to their presence, blooming with color, adjusting ambient light, filtering air with precision. Dr. Chun's readings confirmed it all. Breathable atmosphere recycled in real time. Antitoxin spores neutralizing microbes even. Localized electromagnetic shielding grown from plant fibers. "Captain," he whispered, trying and failing to contain himself, "if we could share this with Earth, with any colony, this would transform every frontier world. These beings could cure starvation, cure disease." Thesa's voice was soft but clear. "We offered it freely, for over 20 cycles. But none would listen. The Zentari told us we had evolved in the wrong direction. The Voss called us inefficient. The Hadari said relocating us would be an unacceptable cost. Because you don't make weapons," Elena said bitterly. "Because you don't conquer, you nurture." Thesa stopped beside a glowing tree, its fruit shimmering like liquid emeralds. "Yes, and because our gifts make the powerful uncomfortable. They fear a world that does not need to buy their medicine or their food." Suddenly, a rumble shook the air. The sky above shimmered with an unnatural wave metal against light. A sleek, angular ship descended without grace or invitation. Black with blood-red trim, Zentari. Elena's jaw tensed as the vessel landed with calculated threat. A hatch opened and out stepped Commander Jorik, his obsidian scales glistening, eyes cold and reptilian. His soldiers flanked him, but he needed none. His presence was threat enough. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, voice cold through the translator, "your presence here violates protocol. You will withdraw immediately." Elena stepped between him and Ktherra. "This is an independent world. Earth has every right to conduct humanitarian assistance. This is not humanitarian. It is interference." These creatures were evaluated by the Galactic Council and deemed obsolete. "They are alive," Elena said firmly. "They matter. They offer nothing the galaxy needs." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "They offer more than your entire empire's bioengineering division." "You're afraid of them." Jorik didn't blink. "No, we are not afraid. We are efficient. We protect order." "You protect monopoly," Elena snapped. "You protect systems built on suffering." Ktherra placed a calming hand on Elena's shoulder. "We will not fight, Captain. That is not our way." "I know," Elena said, "but it is mine." Her communicator chirped. Lieutenant Kim's voice was tight. "Captain, we just intercepted a transmission. The Zentari have mobilized. They've informed other powers. Multiple fleets are en route." Elena exhaled slowly. The storm was coming. Then, "We better be ready to stand." The night on Solace Prime was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the edge of the living city, eyes raised to the sky where stars swirled in ghostly silence. Above the forest canopy, the dying sun still loomed, flickering with distant flares, unstable and bloated, like a heart beating out of rhythm. Beneath its fading light, the Ktherra's crystalline towers glowed in gentle pulses, alive with purpose, whispering secrets into the wind. But all peace was an illusion now. Zentari boots thudded against the soft earth, disrupting the sacred stillness. They had come not with guns drawn, but with the weight of entitlement, a procession of armored arrogance. Commander Jorik had not returned alone. He brought an envoy ship, not a warship, not yet, but its hull bore the markings of the Zentari Imperial Judicator Corps, a threat in every line of its design. Elena watched from the Central Grove platform, joined by Dr. Chen, Lieutenant Kim, and Ktherra. The Ktherra elder was serene as ever, though Elena could see the quiet tension in the way the vines on her wrists curled inward. Even peace had its limits. Jorik approached with ritualistic coldness. "Captain Rodriguez, the Galactic Council has issued a motion of violation. Your intervention on this planet is classified as unlawful assistance of a species under evaluation status. You will cease all activities immediately and vacate this system within 24 standard hours." Elena didn't move. "You've known about the Ktherra for decades. You ignored their calls. Now you claim jurisdiction? You're not here for justice. You're here to finish the burial." The commander's slit pupils narrowed. "We are here to prevent disruption. The Ktherra's biological knowledge, if shared recklessly, would destabilize markets, compromise pharmaceutical monopolies, and undermine centuries of technological balance. You don't understand the complexity." "No," Elena said sharply. "You don't understand the cost of silence." Ktherra stepped forward. "We offered our healing freely. Our agricultural knowledge, our environmental harmony. We only wanted to help. Why does that threaten you so deeply?" Jorik didn't answer. Instead, he raised a gauntlet and activated a projection. Floating in midair was a star-mapped Solace Prime, Earth, and a series of flashing red dots expanding outward. "We've alerted the Voss Collective, the Hadari Trade Federation, the Rylian, Concord. All have vested interests in this system remaining undisturbed. They are en route. If you do not leave, you will be blockaded. Earth cannot protect you from what's coming." At that, Jorik turned and left, his boots crushing small bioluminescent flowers beneath them. The light dimmed where he walked. Elena stood in stunned silence, jaw clenched. Dr. Chen muttered, "So that's it. They're not just ignoring the Ktherra. They're going to erase them." Kim's voice trembled slightly over Kum's. "Captain, orbital sensors confirm multiple slipstream signatures. Fleet-class vessels heading this way from 3 directions." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. The air was sweet with the scent of flowering vines. "And yet war was coming. Dr. Chen," she said softly, "how much time do we have before? The solar flares make this planet uninhabitable?" He looked grim. 6 weeks, maybe less. Once the magnetic field collapses, the atmosphere will go with it. Then radiation, then fire. Then we have 6 weeks to save 2 million lives. She tapped her communicator. "Send a secure transmission to Earth Command. Use the diplomatic override." In orbit above them, the New Dawn relayed the call across the stars. A day passed. Then, too, the Ktherra continued preparing. They harvested bioseeds, archived genetic memories in luminous trees, and taught human engineers how to grow breathable space pods from hardened vines and fungal membranes. There was no panic-only purpose. Elena had never seen such grace in the face of extinction. On the 3rd day, Earth Command responded. Admiral Sarah-chan appeared on the screen. Face grave, uniform pristine, voice quiet but firm. "Captain Rodriguez, your request for full planetary evacuation has been approved. 15 ships have been dispatched, including the cruiser Defiance under Captain Maria Martins. At TA, 8 days. Elena felt the tension release from her chest for the first time in days. But then the Admiral added, "Be advised. The Zentari have filed formal protest. Economic sanctions are likely. The Voss are threatening to sever key trade corridors. Earth is under intense pressure from all sides. What's our official stance?" Elena asked, already knowing the answer. The official stance is that Earth does not recognize the authority of any alien body to decide which civilizations deserve to survive. The unofficial stance is that you're walking into a diplomatic war. Elena nodded, eyes steady. "Then we'll lead with integrity and let the galaxy watch." The screen went dark. Thunder rolled in the clouds above the city, not from the sky, but from distant engines. More ships arriving, more eyes, more threats. Thesa approached, placing one gnarled hand on Elena's arm. "They are gathering like carrion birds," she said. Elena looked toward the stars. Let them. Solus Prime was no longer silent. In orbit above the planet. Ships began to arrive, sleek, angular, and draped in the symbols of empires. Not all at once, but in waves. Zentari vessels first, black and sharp as obsidian knives. Then came the Voss cruisers, gleaming in their golden alloy hulls, engines burning with blue ion trails. Hadari transports followed, their designs brutal and functional, surrounded by clusters of automated support craft. 7 fleets in total, each one more menacing than the last. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence was the message. Leave or we'll make you leave. From the bridge of the New Dawn, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a growing storm. The command deck buzzed with data, but her mind was fixed on the tactical display. The orbit around Solus Prime, once clear, now swarmed with warships that eclipsed entire portions of the planet's light. Behind her, Lieutenant Kim whispered, "They're tightening formation. It's a full blockade, Captain." "They're not. Bluffing." Elena didn't respond right away. Her gaze was focused, jaw set like iron. She had seen plenty of standoffs during her time in the Void. Pirates, raiders, territorial disputes. But this was different. These weren't enemies. They were the galaxy's rulers. Civilizations that prided themselves on order, trade, and self-interest. And now they had all come together, not for peace, not for justice, but to ensure that the forgotten stayed forgotten. A ping sounded across all channels. The lead Zenturi dreadnought opened transmission. "This is Fleet Commander Yacht of the Zenturi Imperial Navy." The voice growled, distorted through layers of machine. Translation: Human vessel New Dawn, you are hereby ordered to withdraw. Your interference with the natural order violates the Galactic Stability Accord. Any further action will be considered a hostile breach. Elena leaned forward, activating the comms. Her voice was calm. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth vessel New Dawn. We are here on a humanitarian mission. The Ktherra face planetary extinction. We are evacuating them to safety. This is not interference. It is compassion. The fate of the Ktherra has been determined by the Council." The Zenturi snapped. "They have no relevance. They serve no purpose." Another voice interrupted, smoother, corporate, and even colder. "This is Trade Marshal Corin of the Voss Collective," it said. "Captain Rodriguez, your actions are in violation of interstellar trade ethics. The knowledge the Ktherra possess, if disseminated, would render dozens of medical and agricultural sectors obsolete. You threaten trillions in infrastructure. This cannot be permitted." Elena stared at the screen. "You're not afraid of chaos. You're afraid of fairness. You're afraid of people not needing you." "Economic balance maintains galactic peace," Corin replied. "The loss of control leads to rebellion, piracy, collapse. The Ktherra are dangerous not because of war, but because of change." Another ping. A new voice joined the call, Admiral Veln of the Hadari, dry and without inflection. "Captain Rodriguez, we will not warn you again. Leave Solace Prime, or Earth will face the full consequences of its defiance." Elena closed her eyes for a long second, then looked at her crew. Chun, Kim, the rest of her officers. No one flinched. No one questioned. "Lieutenant Kim," she said quietly, "open broadcast to all frequencies, public channels, galactic-wide." Kim hesitated only briefly, then nodded. "Channel open, Captain." Elena stepped into the center of the bridge. Her voice didn't rise, it didn't thunder, but it cut like a blade. "To every listening ship, to every world watching, let me tell you what's happening here. There's a species on the surface of this planet, the Ktherra. They are peaceful, brilliant, and generous. They've cured diseases we haven't even named. They can feed barren worlds. And for 20 years they asked for help. And you," she gestured to the blockade, "you all ignored them. Why? Because they have no weapons. Because they don't sell their knowledge. Because they dared to exist without paying tribute to your power structures. You're not here to protect peace. You're here to bury truth." She leaned forward, her eyes hard as steel. "Well, Earth sees them. We hear them. And we won't stand by while you decide who gets to live and who gets to die." There was a beat of silence across the stars. Then, suddenly, a burst of light 15 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Sleek, powerful, bristling with weapons, but their hulls bore the white and blue banners of Earth. At the head was the heavy cruiser Defiance. The comms lit up again. "This is Captain Maria Martins of the Defiance," a steady, warm voice declared. "Any hostile action against the New Dawn or her mission will be considered an act of war against the United Earth Directorate. We didn't come to fight, but we didn't come to run either." The alien fleets hesitated, repositioned. Communications crackled with private conversations behind the scenes. Orders rescinded. Alliances tested. In the brief silence that followed, Elena's voice cut through once more. "We came here to answer a call no one else would. We don't claim perfection, but we claim responsibility. The Ktherra may not matter to your economies, but they matter to us. And they matter to this galaxy, because what they offer is life, healing, harmony. You want us to walk away? You'll have to come through us. The screen flickered. No immediate threats followed. No shots fired. But something had changed. The balance of fear was shifting back on the surface. The Ktherra's gardens glowed brighter than ever. The city was alive. With motion, preparation, hope. And for the first time in their long history, they were not alone. Above Solace Prime, the stars no longer blinked peacefully. They shimmered now with tension, an uneasy standoff of warships, weapon systems primed, engines on edge. The blockade had held its position for 2 full days, a suffocating cage of firepower surrounding a planet on the verge of death. But they had not attacked. Not yet. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, jaw clenched, shoulders stiff with the weight of 2 million lives pressing down on her every breath. The standoff could not last forever. Sooner or later, someone would flinch. Or someone would fire. Lieutenant Sarah Kim's voice broke the silence, tight with stress. Captain, the Hadari destroyers are reconfiguring their orbital trajectory. It's a flanking maneuver. Elena didn't look away from the tactical display. They're testing our resolve. Or preparing to strike, Kim replied, behind. Dr. Marcus Chen tapped his display with visible frustration. And while they posture, the planet is dying. Radiation levels are rising. That star isn't waiting for negotiations. The bridge trembled slightly as another solar pulse rippled through the atmosphere. The star was unraveling. Their window was closing. Then came the message. An open broadcast. No encryption. No formality. This is Trade High Executor Daleks of the Relian Concord. Humanity's interference on Solace Prime is hereby considered a direct threat to interstellar economic equilibrium. Should the evacuation proceed, all Earth-aligned trade routes will be severed. No supplies, no fuel, no access to Relian jump gates. You will be isolated. Elena didn't even blink. Let them close their gates. We'll chart new stars. A moment later, a second voice crackled through the speaker, this one colder. More deliberate. Captain Rodriguez, Commander Yacht of the Zentari said, his voice as jagged as broken glass. The only reason your ship has not been destroyed is because we expected your species would come to its senses. But now you've summoned your fleet, defied direct orders, and disrupted galactic stability. You stand on the edge of war. Elena's fingers curled slowly into fists. She opened a secure line to Captain Maria Martins aboard the Defiance. How long until the rest of the evac fleet is ready? Elena asked. Martin's voice was calm, even upbeat. 8 of the 15 transports are fully loaded and shielded. The Ktherra have been incredible. They work like nature itself, silent, focused, unafraid. We'll start staggered launches in 1 hour. Elena nodded. Begin immediately. I'll buy you the time. Martins hesitated. Elena, you're planning something. I'm planning to make them choose, she said. Between looking like cowards or becoming monsters on the galactic stage. Back on Solace Prime, the surface was a storm of quiet movement. The Ktherra, graceful even in desperation, moved with deliberate purpose. Seeds, spores, memory nodes, everything. Everything they carried was being loaded into the biocompatible vessels Earth had provided. These weren't just bodies fleeing danger. These were memories, cultures, sciences so advanced and yet so humble they could heal ecosystems with a whisper and regrow forests from ash. Thissa stood with Elena at the launch platform, watching the first of the great transport ships ascend. Through the shimmering haze of the atmosphere, my people have never known war, she said softly. Never needed it. We have lived long lives, grown deep roots. And now we are pulled into a storm of fire. Elena looked up at the looming blockade above. Sometimes, the only way to protect what's sacred is to stand where no one else. Well, Thesa turned to her, those luminous silver eyes shining. Do you believe they will let us leave in peace? No, Elena replied honestly. But I believe they don't want the galaxy to see them destroy peace either, so we make them hesitate. We show them what they're afraid to become. At that moment, alarms blared on the new dawn. Captain, Kim called from the bridge. Zentari vessel powering weapons. Multiple lock-ons from Rylian fleet. Elena dashed back to the bridge. The screen exploded with red targeting vectors. Martin's voice came over comms. They're moving. No shots yet, but they're crowding. U.S. Activate our shield arrays, Elena ordered. All transports stay on evacuation schedule. If we lose a ship, we lose a future. And then a flicker across the starfield, like a ripple in the fabric of space. A new vessel emerged, not Zentari, not Vos.Not, Rylian, smaller, older, but distinct. This is Captain Tho of the Miran Republic, the voice said over open channel. We do not recognize the authority of any council to decide which species live or die. We stand with Earth and with the Ktherra. A pause. Another ship appeared. And another, independent vessels, free colonies, fringe scientists, old allies, forgotten outposts. One by one, they emerged from hyperspace insignificant alone. But together, they formed a constellation of conscience. This is Governor Lael of the Andari Ring. We stand with the Ktherra. This is Professor Elon, representing the free. Galactic Academy. We offer our ships, our medics, and our data cores. This is the People's Station from Tarses 9. Our people know what it's like to be forgotten. Within minutes, 27 ships hovered alongside the new dawn. The balance had shifted. For the first time, the blockade cracked, not from fire, but from shame. Yakt's voice roared over the comms. You will all be punished for this. Elena stood tall. We're not afraid of punishment, she said. We're afraid of silence, of doing nothing when we could have done something. She paused, then broadcast to the entire system once more. To all who still hesitate, know this. History remembers the cowards, but it honors those who stood. Behind her, another transport lifted off, then another. The blockade didn't fire, because the whole galaxy was watching. The sixth transport had just cleared Solace, prime spinning upper atmosphere when the stars above it flared with motion, not from the sun's dying spasms, but from a swarm of flickering silhouettes now arriving in orbit. More ships. Bigger ships. The Vos had sent in a Dread-class cruiser. The Hadari added a siege frigate flanked by 3 fast-attack corvettes, and the Zentari. They unveiled their message with brutal precision. A supercarrier-class vessel phased into real space, directly between the remaining evacuation ships and their planetary launch window. It was immense, so large it eclipsed the glow of the sun behind it, casting a slow-moving shadow across half the hemisphere. Commander Yakt's voice returned, sharper now, guttural, no longer wrapped in diplomatic dressing. This ends now. Any further launch will be met with interdiction. You were warned. Inside the new dawn, silence reigned for several long seconds. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood frozen at the center of the bridge, not in fear, but in calculation. She was reading the formation. Not just weapons, not just vectors. She was reading intent. And she saw desperation. The major powers had not expected defiance. They had certainly not expected allies. Now they had assembled their most terrifying display of strength, not because they were ready to fire, but because they needed others to believe they would. They're bluffing, Elena said, voice low. Ma'am? Lieutenant Kim glanced up, startled. They're losing narrative control, Elena continued. We've exposed their motives. The galaxy's watching. If they fire now, they stop being peacekeepers and become executioners. And they know it. Then the broadcast alert chimed again, but this time not from any of the powers. It came from the surface. Captain Rodriguez. Dr. Chen's voice said over the comm. Ktherra is requesting a system-wide transmission. Elena blinked. Put her through. Across every frequency, every channel, from warship to merchant freighter to the smallest colony relay post, the voice of Elder Ktherra echoed calm, clear, and impossibly ancient, to the great civilizations gathered in orbit. She began, and to those who watch from distant stars, I am Ktherra of the Ktherra. For 20 cycles, we have asked for no favors. We offered peace, healing, and knowledge. You turned away. We offered friendship. You sealed your doors. On the bridge, everyone had stopped moving. Even the Zentari channels fell silent, but now a new voice has answered. Humanity has come not to conquer, not to judge, but to listen. And in doing so, they have reminded us that compassion is not a weakness, but the foundation of all strength. Ktherra's voice grew stronger. You fear us not because we are powerful, but because we remind you of what you have forgotten. That progress is not measured in weapon yields or trade credits. It is measured in the lives we choose to save. A pause. Then, with deep sadness, she said, You would let us die because we don't feed your industries, because our gifts would unravel your profit. But we offer them still, freely, even now, with extinction at our door. Her final words rang like a challenge wrapped in grace. Will you meet that gift with fire or with understanding? A beat of stillness. Then a miracle. This is Captain Alari of the Marin Alliance. Came a new voice, strong and emotional. The Marin were once refugees. We cannot forget that. We will stand with the Ktherra. Another signal joined. This is Science Prefect Naylor of Zenthis Station. Our research vessels are inbound with transport capability. More followed. Not warships, but hospital cruisers, agricultural carriers, generation ships. The galaxy's long overlooked citizens were answering not because of Earth, but because the Ktherra had reminded them what the powerful tried to erase, that survival should not be. Decided by balance sheets, but not all were moved. Fleet Commander. Yakt's voice returned, vicious now. These fools jeopardize order. Captain Rodriguez, you are responsible for this chaos. You will not leave this system. Martin's voice cut in from the defiance ice sharp. Yakt, your weapons remain. Cold for one reason. Fire once and it's war. Earth is not alone anymore. Neither are the Ktherra. Suddenly, the Zentari carrier shifted. Not toward the new dawn, but toward one of the smaller refugee support ships, an unarmed medical vessel arriving from a fringe humanitarian group. Elena's heart leapt. He's targeting the weakest ship. Trying to break morale. Kim cut her off. Captain, the carrier has a weapons lock. A red icon lit on the tactical screen. Then another dot and another. Not enemy fire, but Earth ships and their new allies. 100 guns turned. Every cannon on the Method. Defiance. Every rail launcher on the Allied ships. Every shielding array on the medical. Vessels went full active, and all pointed directly at the Zentari carrier. It was the galaxy's answer. Elena stepped forward. Opened the channel herself. Yakt, the next move is yours. But understand this. If you fire, you'll be remembered not as a protector of order, but as the butcher who silenced a species to protect his empire's greed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You'll start a war you cannot win. Silence. Long. Breathless. Then the Zentari ships began to shift. Not in aggression. In retreat. Slow, deliberate, cowardly. The blockade cracked. And in that fracture, sunlight poured through pure, radiant, filtered through the upper clouds of solace. Prime like a divine answer, another Ktherra ship. Lifted from the surface. Then another. The sky bloomed with motion. They were leaving. Together. Not forgotten. Not alone. Solace Prime was dying. The sun had bloated further in the last 48 hours, its light now flickering with pulses of ultraviolet radiation that clawed at the planet's upper atmosphere like invisible knives. The sky, once the soft green-blue of a thriving world, was dimming, streaked with auroras of decay. But below, in the final days of their ancient home, the Ktherra did not mourn. They moved with sacred purpose. Gardens were sealed and catalogued. Biomemory trees, each containing 1,000 years of history, wisdom, and songs, were gently rooted in nutrient-stabilized pods. The great seed vaults, the vine libraries, the last living spires of their culture, all were lifted one by one into the sky aboard Earth-built transports and the allied vessels of the galaxy's newly awakened conscience. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on a high platform overlooking the launch fields, wind tugging gently at her uniform. Beside her, Ktherra watched the final stages of evacuation with quiet resolve. "How much remains?" Elena asked softly. Ktherra's luminous silver eyes blinked once, slowly. 17 more transports. Most of our population has already gone. What remains now are memories, art, the breath of our spirit. Elena glanced upward. In orbit, the once impenetrable blockade had fractured entirely. Many of the former aggressor fleets had vanished. Some withdrew in silence. Others sent no message, only the absence of violence. With their retreat was enough. In their place, over 70 vessels now orbited Solace Prime human. Independent, fringe, and former neutral ships turned believers. They hadn't just come to help. They had come to witness history and to remember what courage looked like. The comms crackled. "Captain," came Lieutenant Kim's voice from the new dawn. "Solar flare wave incoming. Estimated impact in 6 hours. After that, we won't be able to launch from the surface safely. We have to complete evacuation now." Elena didn't hesitate. "Understood. Initiate final launch sequence. All remaining crews to ships. Everyone off the ground within 4 hours." She turned to Ktherra. "It's time." The elder placed her hand gently on Elena's shoulder. "Captain, what your people have done here, it is more than rescue. You changed the course of the galaxy." Elena looked her in the eye. "We didn't do it for the galaxy. We did it for you. And for everyone like you who never got the chance to be heard." At that moment, an urgent ping sounded from her communicator. Dr. Chun's voice broke through, breathless. "Captain, 1 of the final pod Sector 19, the Life Root Vault. It's trapped beneath a biocollapse. A containment vine ruptured. It's buried under its own growth structure. The seeds inside, they won't survive the flare." "How long to cut through?" Elena asked, already moving toward the landing zone. "Too long. We'd need heavy cutters and more time than we've got. I'll get it out." "Captain." "Lock?" "The launch queue in. I'll catch up." "Captain, if you stay, the last ship will launch without you." "I know." She ran. The Life Root Vault was halfway across the southern ridge, already half buried beneath thick green roots. Bioluminescent vines had overgrown the containment shell in their death throes, instinctively trying to protect what was inside, but now strangling it. Elena didn't slow. She drew her plasma cutter and dropped to one knee. With sweat pouring down her face and every cut burning through half a power cell, she sliced through layer after layer of living bark, vine, and hardened resin. The vault's casing finally hissed free, its core intact. Inside were the seeds of the first grove, the original genetic memory from which every Ktherra had evolved. If lost, it would be like killing their beginning. She triggered the beacon. A drone snapped through the trees above. lowered a harness, and lifted the vault into the sky. Behind her, the trees shuddered. Not from her movement, from the sun. In the Theia. Far distance, across the darkening sky, the first flare erupted from the solar surface. A wall of radiation, blinding and beautiful, washed over the planet like a second sunrise made of death. Her comms chirped. Captain Rodriguez, this is Defiance. You have 2 minutes before launch cutoff. We're holding your seat. She turned and ran. Her legs screamed with every step. She cleared the ridge. Then the ground began to tremble. The second flare bloomed across the horizon, this one stronger, angrier. Trees combusted in its path. The air sizzled. She saw the last transport's landing struts retracting. No, she breathed. Then, against all logic, against timing, against even gravity, a hand caught hers. It was not human. It was Ktherra, stronger. Then she looked. The Ktherra elder hauled Elena forward and into the waiting arms of a human marine who had stayed behind at the bay door. Go! Ktherra shouted. The final door sealed behind them as the ship lifted off. Below, Solus Prime burned. From orbit, Elena watched the death of a world. Fire consumed the forests. Atmosphere ignited. The sun gave its final scream, and the planet's surface cracked under waves of radiation. Solus Prime had given its people everything. Now it gave them its last gift, time enough to escape. She stood in the viewing chamber of the new dawn, flanked by Chun, Kim, and Ktherra. No one spoke until Ktherra did. A world is not land or sky, she said quietly. It is memory and people, and those who refuse to abandon them. 6 months later, new Ktherra bloomed. Across its once barren soil, gardens now stretched for miles, vibrant and alive with colors unseen on any human world. The Ktherra had not merely adapted, they had transformed their new home. Earth scientists worked beside plant-song engineers. Human children played in groves of memory trees, learning histories written in light and scent. The alliance had not just survived. It had flourished. Dr. Chun approached Elena near the central garden plaza, holding a datapad. You'll want to see this, he said, eyes shining. Give me the highlights. Using Ktherra biotech, we've increased food output across all Earth colonies by 312%, and that's just the beginning. Medical impact. We've eradicated 14 previously incurable genetic disorders. Average life expectancy rising fast. Elena smiled softly. And the galaxy? He hesitated. Even the Zentari have sent word. Through intermediaries, of course. They're requesting a meeting. Off the record. Let them wait, Elena said, walking through the garden where Ktherra and humans laughed and worked side by side. She passed Ktherra teaching a group of botanists how to coax harmony from desert soil. Children gathered around a memory tree that played melodies from both Earth and Solus Prime. She looked up at the stars, still vast, still unknown, still waiting. Somewhere out there, other civilizations waited in silence, forgotten, abandoned. But now they knew someone was listening, and someone would answer.